We will start with Antonio.
Hey Lincoln, I know the corner group probably wants some moments from Saturday back, but through the first 5 games, how would you assess their play? And they're going to get tested pretty much every week throughout the rest of the season. What do you want to see from them going forward?
Yeah, I would say just Antonio, I would say just like consistency of play. Like we've had some really good moments, some really strong individual plays. Uh I feel like the group is we have a little bit more depth than we had last year. We're also um in some ways maybe a little more unproven, but we definitely have more depth. And I think I feel like that group is like really primed to take off and play well the second half of the season. I think we all figured there was going to be a little bit of an adjustment period with that group. I mean, Blackman obviously played so well for us last year and was such a mainstay, and we do feel like some of these guys have progressed. We've got a But I think the thing that you would love to see and what we're pushing to see here in the second half of the year is finishing some of the plays. Like we have some really good length in that room. We have some guys that I think are starting to really get comfortable and we've had some opportunities to really finish some great plays, and I think we're capable of that. And so uh I think the consistency and then making some of the big plays that we're capable of, because as you mentioned, we are going to get tested there at times like everybody is. And when you can not just hold up, but when you can make some of those plays yourself, it changes the context of everything. And we absolutely have guys in that room capable of it. So and then obviously I think the hope is too that we can stay a little bit healthier there. That's been even kind of fall camp and then here through the first part of the year. I mean, it's just been, we haven't had much consistency. I don't know if we've had one guy that's been available for every game, which has been, we just kind of, the lineup has kind of fluctuated, and not as much the lineup from what you guys see on Saturdays, but like just the practice, the consistency of practice, being able to be there. Roland Wallace is really the one guy that from really fall camp on has probably practiced every single day, and you can tell kind of with his consistency of play, like he's really starting to take off, and we need that certainly from Damani and Sierra and Jacoby and Profit, some of these other guys. Like just the consistency and the reps and experience will add up, because they do have ability, and they've all had some phenomenal, like some great snaps this year. So yeah, I need to get healthy. I need to get consistent, and when we get an opportunity to make some of the plays that we're capable of making, we need to settle in and go make those plays, because those are game changing type plays.
Brian Young.
Good morning. I think there were 6 handoffs to the running backs after time last week. What goes into that balance of deciding when to lean on the ground game and when to trust the passing attack the rest of the way?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there, Ryan.
Yeah, I think there were 6 handoffs to the running backs after halftime on Saturday. What goes into that balance of deciding when to lean on the ground game and when to stick with the passing attack?
Yeah, we didn't have as many plays. I mean, after halftime, I mean, was just the simple math was part of it. We had a couple of big plays. We had 2 3 and outs, and then we had a turnover on a first play of a drive. So I mean, there wasn't as much of anything in the second half. And then I mean, we got to run the ball better. I mean, we didn't run the ball very good. I mean, it's pretty much the simple answer. And we didn't I know I've talked about it at length after the game. We got to do a better job as coaches. We missed some cuts up front. We had a couple that were going to be big plays that we had bad snaps on. And then we obviously we didn't do a great job finishing blocks up front. So I mean, we got to do it better. We got to stay on the field. And that's probably that's the number one thing. I mean, we've shown we're certainly very committed to having a great run game here, and have been committed since the day we walked in the door here. And I think the results have spoke for themselves there. But we didn't do as good job of it Saturday, and we need to do a lot better job here this Saturday.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Luca.
Yeah, Lincoln, just going off of that, I know you're talking about areas of growth for Marshawn or just, things to kind of keep building with him a couple weeks ago. What do you kind of need to see from him to feel like, comfortable kind of entrusting the run game a little bit more, maybe in situations where you're trying to kind of keep the defense off the field a little bit, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's you gotta do it efficiently. You gotta be able to stay on the field. I mean, we have trusted him. I mean, he's gotten the bulk of the carries here the last few weeks. And again, when you're playing some of the low number of snaps that we've played, I mean, there's not, it's not like we're our start tailback's getting 15 carries, but we're throwing it 65 times. I mean, that's not. I mean, we have had a decent amount of balance there. We just weren't as efficient with it in the game the other day, which obviously would have been helpful for a lot of reasons. So we want to do it better. Now we're still scoring a point or two, so I don't think it's broken, but we definitely need to do it a little bit better.
RJ?
Hey, Lincoln, I'm just curious from maybe what you've seen this week specifically and just from the group overall about the maturity it takes to balance being 5-0 and enjoying that, but also knowing that there's a 5-0 that's not quite good enough at the moment for where you guys want to go. Just how do you size up this group from maturity level in terms of balancing that?
Yeah, definitely get the question. I mean, first, 5-0 is good enough because you can't do any better than that. I've tried hard to win 6-5, but you still can't do it. So 5-0 is plenty good enough. The play is the execution. Has it been perfect? Is it going to need to get better? Of course, right? Like no, and that would be the answer regardless. I mean, I don't know what our average margin of victory right now is, but if it were 15 points more, like that would still be the same answer, right? Like you've got to continue to get better. And you got to own the good with the bad. You have to own both. And I know that's been our message. I know you've heard that from us, but that really is the truth. And that really is how we're approaching it with our guys. And our guys, they want to continue to get better. They want to continue to play better. They understand that the season is a climb and there's a lot left for this team in terms of fulfilling our potential. And we want to keep taking steps there. So I feel like the team has been very, very bought in with it. They're excited and appreciative to have won every single game that we've played. They also, we also know just internally for us that we can absolutely be a lot better. And there's a lot out in front for this team that we're going to have to go take. Obviously people are not going to hand it to us. So I think we've been motivated. I think they've been very excited. They've practiced well. I think we've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks from being in some of these different situations as a team. And I do feel like it's strengthened our bond and strengthened our resolve. And the week of practice, from what I've seen and the intent of this team to go attack those areas, I think has been very apparent. And so we got to go take that and go put it on the game field here in these upcoming Saturdays. But I like the vibe of this team. I like the desire of this team. They're appreciative to be 5-0, but also very excited and motivated to continue to improve, which is right where we want them to be.
Dukney?
Hey, Lincoln. Yesterday, Justin said he felt like Caleb has progressed in terms of making checks at the line of scrimmage. And so I was just wondering, in general, during your process, during the week, like how much do you speak to your quarterbacks, your other players about whether they have input in terms of the game plan, plays that they like, plays that they're most comfortable with? And when you have a guy like Caleb who's coming back with more experience, like how does that kind of like control of the offense change?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, it's different it's different. We always ask opinions of our guys. Now, we don't always listen to them, but we always ask. It comes in two different ways, right? You've got the younger, inexperienced players that you're making sure that they're comfortable and confident in the execution of it. and then typically it morphs a little bit more into like with some of our more experienced players like a Caleb or like a Justin of, it's good to have ones that they really believe in and that they really see. And it tends to get more from, it's less like kind of a young player's confidence, and it's more of, hey, like these guys have had a lot of reps, like they know what they like, they kind of know what they're good at. It becomes more of it can be a little bit more of an in-depth discussion, I guess, if you will. And so, yeah, I mean, our guys come up with some great ideas at times, or great thoughts for adjustments. We've got some really smart players, and so it's good dialogue. I mean, I think like anything, there's got to be, there does have to be one decision maker at the end. At the end of the day, we got to make a decision and all go with it. But we have some great guys on really both sides. You see that, I think, more in year 2 across the program. I mean, there's we have experienced players now defensively that have now been in our system for a few years that can provide some of that feedback to our staff defensively, same offensively. And so I think those conversations probably as a whole feel a little bit different than they did 12 months ago.
Thanks.
Ryan Kirchie.
Hey, Lincoln. The Big Ten released its schedule for the next 5 years about an hour ago. And they kind of made clear with that they'd consider the possibility of sort of honoring the Oregon, Washington, West Coast contingent, that they'd considered that, but then ultimately decided to shake it up a little bit more. And there will be seasons where, you guys don't play a West Coast team on the road. I guess I just wonder your thoughts on that, and just kind of how that schedule looks to you in general going forward.
Yeah, I just look at it. I mean, I don't have any serious complaints. There's a couple of things on the sequencing of home and away, especially with some of the teams that are in our league that we didn't agree with. But at the same point, like, you understand, like, part of it you understand is like it's not going to be just perfect for anyone. And I think the West Coast piece was just the way that it sequenced out, where us and UCLA went in first, and then the other 2 teams went in after that. I feel like it was going to be difficult to honor without having divisions and all that. I just feel like it was going to be very difficult to honor, to try to fit that much West Coast in when you've got so many other people left to play. Like, I get the one with UCLA because of the rivalry and the history and the sequencing of how we were accepted into the Big Ten. I just think it was going to be almost impossible to do some type of arrangement like that with the other 2 West Coast schools and then still get the coverage of the entire league. And so I honestly felt like from the West Coast piece, I mean, I think they did what they needed to do. I mean, the reality is we're still going to play half of our games, and in most years a little over half of our games on the West Coast. So I mean, I don't think we're going to be hurting for it here. So yeah, I mean, I thought overall, I mean, it's kind of a new concept, right? There's a lot that we're going to learn once we get into it. But I mean, I think for the most part, other than some of the home and home or multiple away visits in a row, I thought it was pretty well done.
Thanks.
Ryan Dyrud.
Hey, Coach. Good morning. Looking at Arizona's defense and, holding Washington to their lowest point till last week, kind of took them to the brink. Penix still had a great game, but no touchdowns. Obviously, you don't got to get into scheme and game plan, but, what have you seen from their defense and how your offense can really kind of attack them?
Yeah, they did a nice job. As they slowed it down at times a little bit offensively, and they played a little bit more of a conservative style defensively and tried to really keep everything in front of them, and at times frustrated Washington a little bit. And like I said, Washington still certainly did some great things, and obviously did enough to get the win. But yeah, you could tell what their plan was, right? It was to try to just really kind of slow down the entire game, limit possessions, and try to keep it close. And they did a good job of it. So yeah, we obviously, that doesn't mean that's exactly what they're going to do against us, but it's obviously something, we got to be ready for. And, we get people trying a lot of different things defensively, against our team. And so, our job to have them prepared and ready for it. And this group defensively, They do a good job. They do a good job with their different personnel. They've gotten a little bit bigger on the defensive front this year, which has probably allowed them to be a little bit more stout against the run. And yeah, they've done a nice job. I mean, I think they've improved and coached well. When you watch them, you see schematically, you can tell what they're doing, and it makes sense. It's smart. It's challenging. And so, yeah, if it's a similar strategy, then we're going to have to certainly still execute at a high level and make the most of our possessions.
Thanks, Coach.
Jack?
Hey, Coach, you guys had less issues with the play clock running down against Colorado compared to Arizona State. And I know some coaches like to let the play clock run down a little bit with a lead offensively, but you guys did leave some of that time on the clock in the second half. Not wanting to have you share too much, but is that a philosophy of yours or more of a cautious approach to avoid having to burn timeouts or take delay of game penalties on the road?
Oh, hard to give you a blanket answer because every play and every situation's, a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, I think we certainly were very conscious of it after cutting it too close and having to use some timeouts at Arizona State. I mean, we obviously didn't do a very good job of it there. So I thought the operation improved offensively, and even when we weren't trying to go fast, we didn't have many play clock issues. So we did a better job just communicating and getting plays off. Now, tempo is always going to vary, and you're at your best when you can do a little bit of both. So operation was better, but like I said, we didn't run it well and had a chance to shorten the game there a little bit and had, our worst possessions there at the end of the game. So that's obviously made a big point for the offense. So situation we have to be much better in.
Okay, we have time for one more. We'll go with Connor.
Coach, how do you prepare for the element of surprise? We saw Arizona State try a few different things, and when you're such big favorites in some of these games, you might not expect to see some of the plays from these underdogs trying to pull off an upset. How do you prepare for something that hasn't been on film or a formation maybe you haven't seen before?
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout the year, you're constantly, I mean, two things. You try to expose your guys to as much as you can, whether it happens against you or it happens in another college team or another NFL team. You try to grow their football knowledge and just give them as much exposure to all the possibilities that you can. And then I think that's why you have, base rules and base fundamentals that you can go back to where, if they do something differently on any side of the ball, you have something you can draw back to that should get you to the right place. Because no matter what you do as a coach, you can never show them everything. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of things that can happen, right, within every play. And so you just do the best you can, I think, on both of those fronts. And you've got to be able to handle them. I mean, we at times we've done a good job. I mean, think about Christian Pierce recovering the surprise onside, a couple weeks ago. We checked into a little bit different punt the other day on the one that we blocked and obviously, made that work. So we've done some good. And then obviously there's been some that we've learned from, but I guess maybe in year two, I don't want what all people expect in year one, but with us winning and having a good football team, you're going to see that, and you've got to be ready to not just eliminate it, but make them big plays yourself. Like Christian Pierce recovers that surprise onside. I mean, that's like a 40-yard play offensively. Right now, I mean, field position just massively flips, and so if you can neutralize people with that, you can separate quickly too. And so we've tried, hopefully we can use it as a weapon, expect it, have a smart football team that's ready for it and make people pay when they try something like that against us.